If you've gotten this far, I guess you can't get enough of me, can you? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I see in today's politics. It's difficult to understand what some people mean, or to make proper judgments of everyone that runs for office. We have to make choices. Of course, if you're a party flack, Democrat or Republican, you're going to vote straight ticket all the way down the line. But there are always those who are undecided, and they're watching both candidates and trying to make a proper judgment. Well, the way I see it, there's too much that is missing from one candidate. The other candidate, we know his whole life story from the day he was born. There are too many promises by one candidate. And it reminds me of a man that came to power about 50 years ago. Not in the United States, but close to the United States. A man that came to power, and he came telling people, I'm here to save you. I'm here to make changes, and you're all going to have a better life. You're all going to live better, much better than you do now. And he promised that one day they would get to vote. And in 50 years they have never voted. And he gave them free health care. And some people still believe the baloney that the health care is good health care. But that man doesn't allow anyone to come and inspect his health care. There are no outside inspectors who can give a real in-depth report on the health care. Of course, by now you realize I'm talking about Fidel Castro in Cuba. There's no one that has been able to go in there and to really examine the educational system. Oh, it's good, but there are a lot of flaws in it. There are a lot of things that would never be allowed in this country. And the health care, the clinics there, some of them are so utterly filthy that if you, a citizen of the United States, walked into one of those clinics, suburban clinics, you'd walk right out. There's not a clinic in the United States that is in the state, the filth that some of those clinics in Cuba have. Now there are people that'll listen to me and they'll say, oh, you're full of bull. They've been believing the propaganda for years. Well, there have been a lot of photographs smuggled out of Cuba, photographs taken in hospitals, photographs taken in those clinics, stories about the health care. But Americans who have so much faith in Fidel don't want to believe those stories. Well, we're being promised just about the same thing. Fidel sent doctors into South America, but most of these doctors were not people who would be granted a license in any other country. They're about the same, let's say, as a medic, a field medic in the Army. They've been trained, and I don't believe as well as the U.S. Army trains our medics. And then they're sent down there, but the main point is propaganda and to preach Marxism, which is now spread throughout South and Central America. Well, some of these promises that I hear remind me, very disturbingly remind me, of those things that were promised to the Cuban people 50 years ago. And I hear that he wants to found this people's or students group that he's going to send all over the world. They're not going to be Peace Corps. He wants something in his own name, in his own image. He's probably even designed the uniforms that they'll wear and send them around the world. But what will they preach? The wonders? The wonders of what? The wonders of one man? One Messiah? And that's what Fidel feels he is, the Messiah. Let me tell you something about Cuba today. The whole infrastructure is gone. If they would allow a group of reporters, unbiased reporters, to tour the island and make an assessment and bring with them economists and people who know, let's say, understand how a city is supposed to function, and make an assessment of that country, you'll find that it is a total ruin compared to what it was before Castro became the despot in charge. He only replaced another despot. So the Cuban people have had no real freedom for many years. But we're being promised things that are strangely reminiscent of those promises that were made to the Cuban people 50 years ago. I'd consider that. I'd examine that quite thoroughly. Thanks, folks. One more video. Good night.